Hi, this is Christina at Cemetery of Choice. Today's August 25th, and we are looking at the standard issue Seduced and Abandoned case in Missouri in 1893. Now, if what was brought up in the inquest is accurate, this man was a total slime bucket. Although, of course, he and his friends would say otherwise. So in April of 1893, 17-year-old Ada Hawk was living with her parents, Samuel and Eliza, in Walnut Grove, Missouri. Now, John Edmonson, who was a bank vice president and described as a middle-aged widower, hired her to be a live-in housekeeper for himself and his mother in their home about a mile from where Ada's family lived. And when summer came around, John Edmonson started going around asking some guys what would they do if they got a girl in trouble, and did they know anybody who would marry Ada? And he was evidently trying to drum up a man to be a legitimate father to Ada's baby. And Ada reportedly did not appreciate his attempt to palm her off on somebody else. So when he wasn't able to find somebody to marry her, and he certainly wasn't willing to do it himself, he started asking around for a way to get rid of it. So Ada seemed a little bit more willing to go along with this plan, and they reportedly tried a rubber catheter, which at the time was a legitimate abortion method. Doctors would insert a rubber catheter into the cervix to irritate the uterus and cause the baby to be expelled. So this wasn't like they were doing something really weird and freaky. That didn't seem to work. So Edmondson asked around. He asked a druggist if he knew anything that would work. The druggist said he did not know of anything. Edmondson asked if a combination of whiskey and what they called Indian turnip would work. Indian turnip is more commonly known as Jack in the Pulpit. The turnip-like roots are poisonous, so it could be that they thought this might be an abortifacient. But whatever it is they might have tried there in Walnut Grove, it didn't work. Now, Ada's mother said that they left on July 10th, Ada and Edmondson. Now, she said that Edmondson was paying for a trip to Indian Territory, but we do know that the couple went to Springfield, Missouri, where they checked in as husband and wife at the commercial boarding house run by an elderly woman named Mrs. Donaldson. And Mrs. Donaldson said that Ada approached her about an abortion and that she refused to do anything. But supposedly either a doctor in Springfield or Mrs. Donaldson perpetrated some sort of abortion for $50, which would be about $14,000 in 2020 money. Whether they found a doctor to do something, whether Mrs. Donaldson was willing to do something, evidently at some point during this journey, someone gave some sort of concoction to Ada. Now, Ada's mother reported that her daughter came home on August 1st and took sick on August 5th, reporting pain in her stomach and bowels. Now, Edmondson reportedly coached Ada on how to keep the abortion a secret from her mother, and both of Ada's parents said that he was very attentive of their daughter during this illness. He provided some kind of greenish medicine, which Ada took, but that only seemed to make her worse. Ada bled heavily, she passed a clot, and her mother began to suspect that she had gotten pregnant and arranged an abortion. Now, Ada's parents insisted that they wanted her to see a doctor. Ada refused to see a doctor other than the one that Edmondson chose, who was Dr. J.K. Perry. And Edmondson went to him on August 21st, asking him to attend to Ada for headaches and bowel pain. When Perry arrived, she had 103-degree fever. He said at the inquest that she was delirious. Her family said that no, she was lucid. He diagnosed her as having typhoid malarial fever, which seems kind of redundant, and said that she wasn't pregnant when he treated her, which she probably wasn't at that point. He came by 9 times to care for Ada, but he insisted that nobody be in the room with him when he was attending to her. So as her health deteriorated, Ada realized she was dying, and she said to her mother, "Ma, you know how I love you. You will keep our secret, won't you?" So Mrs. Hawk promised she would, and Ada told her, "Well, Ma, I did miscarry the Saturday after I came home," which would have been August 5th. Ada said that she'd gone into the woods to deliver the baby, then returned home trying to act as if nothing had happened. Now, when she told her mother about this, Edmonson was there, and she turned to him and said, "John, you know that it was yours, for you forced me. You know you forced me. You know you did, and you can be punished for it yet. Are you going to do what you said you would? You said you would take care of me, and if you don't, I will commit suicide." So there's some conjecture about whether that meant that he was forcing her to have sex or forcing her to have the abortion or both, and whether by taking care of me she meant getting a safe abortion or marrying her. That's up to interpretation. But Edmondson told Ada to be quiet and stop making herself so upset. And Ada died August 25th. Mrs. Hawk said that Edmondson told me if I would get my husband quiet, he would do what was right by us. Now, Mr. Hawk said, "Mr. Edmondson did not ask me to keep my mouth shut in regard to my daughter's death, but he said he would pay for the hauling of the coffin and of the corpse. He said he would not go to my house so much, only to keep suspicion down." So after Ada's death, Edmondson asked a man named Mr. Brown to help him dig a grave, telling Brown that he wanted her buried quick and that the family wanted a shallow grave. But word got to the authorities that things seemed a little fishy. Edmondson was arrested and released on $500 bond, which was over $14,000 in 2020 dollars. The coroner arrived in town, had Ada's body exhumed. It was too decomposed for him to be able to perform a satisfactory autopsy, but he did hold an inquest, which brought out this story. Edmondson, for his part, conveniently hopped into a buggy and headed out of town for the entire time that the coroner was there. This didn't help him. The coroner swore out a new warrant, raising his bond to $2,000, which is over $57,000 in 2020 money. When the time came for the trial, Edmondson got a change of venue because apparently he was not the most popular man back in Walnut Grove after all of this came out. So he moved from Greene County to Taney County, but that apparently did nothing to help him. He was convicted of manslaughter in the second degree. Now, he appealed the conviction, but it was upheld. And when it was upheld, he was interviewed. He had since married and had a child. And apparently this woman believed his story, because I can't think that any respectable woman would marry a man that she honestly believed had either raped or seduced his teenage housekeeper and then forced her to have an abortion that killed her. He said that he knew he was innocent, his friends were supportive of him, and he was going to petition the governor for clemency. I've been unable to find out whether he was successful or not in that plea. Now, it seems to me he was pretty sufficiently proven guilty in this case. And I get the feeling I would have seen something about him getting clemency if that had happened. So, very, very sad case.